The newest rumor surrounding the Kansas City Chiefs is that they are in the market for running back help. Now, I had sort of previously gone over the fact that I think they are going to be in the market for a practice squad running back, but it appears, sorry, I'm looking over my shoulder. I am absolutely paranoid that my internet is going out again. It's gone out like 19 times. That's what it's like having Spectrum. But that they would be looking for a practice squad running back because I don't quite think that Carson Steele is what they want right now. But it seems that that is not something that is limited to the practice squad as far as they're wanting running back help. And it seems they're in the market for an actual 53-man roster running back, and they are even willing to trade for one. This coming on the heels of the Sky Moore trade. I will be back later tonight with a video on the Sky Moore trade, and this is how badly I want you to know that I'm trying to give you the best news when I can. It would behoove me greatly to make a Sky Moore video right now as opposed to the running backs, because the Sky Moore trade is right now, and that video will not get views later. So help your favorite local scrambling out, your favorite local armchair, and come back later on tonight to watch that video. But I'm going to go over a host of running backs that are often talked about in trade talks right now, and I will end the video with the player that I actually have found in this list that I like the best. But here we have the rumor itself from Diana Rossini. Sources: teams making calls in search of running back additions include the Saints, Browns, and Chiefs. And the number one running back that is talked about when you're talking about running backs that are available is Brian Robinson. He goes 6'1.5", 225 pounds, 30-inch vertical, 9'11" broad jump, a 4.5 340-yard dash, 1.53 10-yard split, 4.57 shuttle, and 7.33 three-cone drill are very bad numbers there. But Robinson is a guy who kind of reminds me of Kareem Hunt, and I think that he is one of the bigger names on the market right now, as evidenced by this 2022, 2023, 2024 stretch, which is the only stretch of his career. But 797 yards as a rookie, 733 in his sophomore campaign, and then 799 yards last year. Last year, he saw an explosion in touchdown productivity, getting up to 8 touchdowns. Not a whole lot outside of his sophomore campaign. If you're looking at the receiving yards there, 368 yards in his second year in the NFL with 4 touchdowns as well. So with the first 3 names on this list, I'm not 100% sold that the Kansas City Chiefs would make these moves, because I think that they're going to come with too high of an asking price when you have your starter in Isaiah Pacheco. You have the guy that is going to be your specialty back, your utility back, your short yardage back in Kareem Hunt, and you have the guy that you're hoping to get some action in Brashard Smith. I think that a lot of this trade talk probably circles around Elijah Mitchell. Elijah Mitchell has not flashed in the preseason the way that you would hope he has. One thing that is going to be interesting here is if they do, in fact, trade for a running back, what do they do with Elijah Mitchell? The big question around Elijah Mitchell is his health, and he has kind of proven that he's going to be okay to play in the NFL. Is there, no matter how minute, is there a trade market around Elijah Mitchell? Brett Veach has proven that he is willing to go out beyond where teams are normally willing to trade in order to get a return on his asset. So, could Elijah Mitchell be traded for something diminishingly small? A 2029 7th-round pick, whatever it is, right? He is guaranteed over $1 million, 1.13, I think, something like that, 1.3, something like that, this season. That is not the kind of money you want to have to leave on the sidelines. The Chiefs run a very clean ledger when you're talking about money that has to be paid to players who are not Kansas City Chiefs. They don't have a whole lot of that money laying around anywhere on this roster. They don't like to do that. But that seems to be Elijah Mitchell, the sticking point for this offense. I think what they're looking for in this running back, because there's a lot of measurable overlap between Brashard Smith and Elijah Mitchell. They are both speed backs. Isaiah Pacheco is sort of a balanced back. Kareem Hunt, more of a power back. Brashard Smith and Elijah Mitchell, both speed backs. So I think the Kansas City Chiefs are looking for another balanced running back, because the running back position we've seen here in Kansas City the past few years, even when the Kansas City Chiefs were having really good luck with injuries, the running back injuries just sort of happen. It's a very physical position, and that has been something that has maybe not plagued the Kansas City Chiefs, but something with which they have had to contend basically for this entire dynastic run. So Brian Robinson brings a balanced type running back. You're looking at a guy who's 225 pounds but does run a 4.53 40-yard dash. Very comparable numbers, in my opinion, to Kareem Hunt. I think the asking price here would be too big. You're not looking for a running back that you're going to be giving 178, 187, 205 carries to. That's not what you're looking for. At least not in my opinion. You have Isaiah Pacheco to carry the load that way. So I think Brian Robinson is off the table from a trade perspective. Now, with Brian Robinson, one of the other big rumors is that he's going to be outright cut. So if you're Brian Robinson and you get outright, I don't understand why that is the rumor, but that is the rumor. So for whatever it's worth, if you can get a crack at Brian Robinson for free, you do it, right? But I just don't see that. I don't see that happening. Another name that has been rumored out there that head coach Aaron Glenn says is not a trade candidate, but if I were trying to make someone a trade candidate, the first thing I would say is that they are not available for trade, right? Is Breece Hall. A 9.96 RAS score. So you see with Brian Robinson a 6.61 RAS score. Now, RAS score at running back is one of these things that's almost a contra. It's almost counter to the actual productivity of the running back for whatever reason, right? So a 9.96 RAS score, when you're looking at a guy who has been in the league for 3 years and is going to be possibly traded, is a red flag, right? But he has been productive in his career. 5'11", 217 pounds, 40-inch vertical, 10-foot 6-inch broad jump, 4.39 40-yard dash with a 1.52 10-yard split. A lot of these numbers look very comparable to Isaiah Pacheco. Isaiah Pacheco himself, a 7th-rounder. Breece Hall was not a 7th-rounder. So when you get to what he's done on the field, he did have nearly 1,000 yards his sophomore campaign, but his rookie year, played in 7 games, started just 2, 80 carries, 463 yards with 4 touchdowns. Now that is an impressive 5.8 yards per carry. He added 218 yards through the air and a touchdown. You're looking at a guy who his sophomore campaign in the NFL toted the rock 223 times. Do you want to have to pay in the trade market for a running back that is going to expect 200 or has earned 223 carries in a single season in the NFL? I don't think so. 994 yards that season, just 6 yards away from the 1,000-yard mark, 5 touchdowns. His average that year dropped to 4.5, but when you're jumping from 80 carries to 223, it's going to happen. He was also targeted 95 times in the passing game, hauling in 76 of them for 591 yards and 4 touchdowns. 209 carries last year for 876 yards, 5 touchdowns. Looking at a 4.2-yard average that season, added 57 catches for 483 yards and 3 touchdowns. Breece Hall is a guy that if they were to acquire Breece Hall in a trade, I would 100% expect them to trade Isaiah Pacheco. Why wouldn't you? If you have Breece Hall, you don't need Isaiah Pacheco. Breece Hall is Isaiah Pacheco plus. 2/100ths of a second slower in the 40-yard dash, but just a very well-rounded running back. This is a running back that is close to a premium guy in the NFL if you can get him in the right situation. Like I still think that this is a guy who could be previous iterations of the NFL. This is a 1,500-yard running back. Just is. I do not think this is a player for whom the Kansas City Chiefs would trade. It would be very interesting. Would be a very fun season of football. Would be extremely powerful in the fantasy football leagues, right? But I just don't see it happening. There's too much that would go into it. Another name for whom there would be too much going into it is Travis Etienne. These are the three names, by the way, that keep popping up in conversations about the Kansas City Chiefs trading for a running back. And on some level, I get it, right? So when you're talking about the trade scenario, you gravitate towards the bigger names. Why wouldn't you? It's just natural, I guess. But a 9.13 RAS score, 5'10", 215, 33.5-inch vert, 10-foot 8-inch broad jump, a 4.45 40-yard dash, 1.56 10-yard split. He is a guy who has crossed 1,000 yards in his career, but he's a guy who has underwhelmed for what was expected of him. He was expected to be one of those next big things in the NFL, but his rookie season, 220 attempts, he did cross 1,000 yards with 1,125 and a 5.1 yard average. Added 316 receiving yards on 35 receptions, but this is kind of where the pinnacle of his career thus far has been. In his second year, he started all 17 games, got 267 carries, 47 more than his rookie year. He doubled his touchdown productivity from 5 to 11, but he only hit 1,008 yards. So his yards per carry dropped from 5.1 down to 3.8. Now, a lot of things go on the football field. A lot of extenuating circumstances. But you would hope that if this was a bell cow running back, that he would be able to rise above those things. 58 receptions, 476 yards, and a single touchdown that season through the air. And then last year, playing 15 games, starting all 15 of them, getting 150 carries. Math comes out pretty clean. And he only got 558 yards, averaging 3.7 yards per carry. He added 254 yards through the air on 39 receptions. I think that the trade market around Travis Etienne would simply be too great. All three of these running backs, I think there's going to be too many bidders, and it's going to get... And here's the thing. When I say too many bidders, when I say the price too high, the NFL running back position has such a low positional value. Nobody's going to be throwing around a first, second, or third round pick on these guys. Probably top of the line, you're looking maybe a fourth, probably a fifth, right? So I maybe that's not asking too much. I don't know that that's worth it because you're adding this running back to an offense that is going to have one running back on the field at a time. You know Isaiah Pacheco is going to get his carries. Kareem Hunt is going to get his carries. Rashard Smith's going to get a couple touches per game. What are you trading for? So if the Chiefs really are in a position where they're going to be trying to acquire running back talent, and one of these three names is on that list, I think they have other plans for the position writ large. I think that it is going to be a position where you're looking at massive overhauls right before the season. I just don't see that being the case, especially with how Isaiah Pacheco has looked in some of his carries this preseason. I think that he has looked explosive. He has looked like he's back. Going down a little bit on the the list here, I think we start to get to some names that are more realistic. Antonio Gibson, an RAS of 9.59, 6 foot tall, 228 pounds, 35-inch vert, 9 foot 10-inch broad jump, 4.39 40-yard dash, 1.55 10-yard split. Physically, a lot of these numbers are very similar to those guys who are higher on this list, right? Sub 4.40, a 1.5 something 10-yard split, 35 to 35 plus inch vert, 9 foot 8-inch plus broad jump. You're looking at a guy who fits in with those other names very well. He is older, so he was 26 last season. He has had middling returns in the running game, a season of 795 yards his rookie season, but with 11 touchdowns. He followed that up 258 carries, 1,037 yards, and 7 touchdowns. Looking at a 4-yard average that season, the lowest average of his career happened in 2022, 546 yards, 3 touchdowns, a 3.7 yard per carry average. And then in 2023, saw just 65 carries for 265 yards and a touchdown. That's still a 4.1 yard average. And then in the 2024 season last year, 538 yards, 1 touchdown, 4.5 yard average. That 4.5 yard average is a pretty sweet spot, though. So didn't mention his receiving numbers because they're pretty kind of consistent. 247 as a rookie, 294 as a sophomore, 353 in his third season, 389 in 2023, and then 206 last year. Fell off last year because not as much playing time. You're looking at 17 games, but only 3 starts there. Only 120 total carries. But so you're looking at a guy who is between 206 and 389 yards every year, has a 3 touchdown, 2 touchdown, and 2 touchdown run in his career between 2021 and 2023. So this is a guy who does have skills both running the football and catching the rock as well. I think that the asking price would be smaller, would be lesser for Antonio Gibson. Maybe this is something that the Kansas City Chiefs could legitimately be in the market for. But this is maybe my favorite of the bunch just because I kind of like the prospect. Next to my favorite, Roschon Johnson. 6 foot tall, 225 pounds, 31.5-inch vert, 10 foot 2-inch broad jump. So a red score and a green score, a very red score and a really pretty green score there. But a 4.58 40-yard dash and a 1.54 10-yard split. Has only had a couple seasons in the NFL and hasn't done too terribly much. 81 carries for 352 yards and 2 touchdowns in his rookie season, a 4.3 yard average that year. Added 34 receptions for 209 yards. So you can tell that he does have a little bit of ability catching the football as well. That was all in 15 games, but with 0 starts. And then last year for the Bears, he added 55 carries, 150 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2.7 yard average. That is miserable. But 6 touchdowns. So you're looking at a guy who was stopped by the end zone preemptively on his run 6 times. Then you have added 16 receptions for 104 yards. I think the asking price on Roschon Johnson would be very low. He is going to be 24 years old. I think this is kind of the sweet spot for Brett Veach, a young guy with pretty high upside. When you're looking at his most impressive numbers, you're looking at his height, 6 feet tall, his weight, 225 pounds, a 10 foot 2-inch broad jump states that he's explosive, even if his vert doesn't corroborate that. And then you have a 1.54 10-yard split, which is a good number, especially for a big back. That is, you line up 5 yards in the backfield. Your 10-yard split gets you 5 yards forward progress. So getting those first 10 yards under control in 1.54 seconds means that you can return to the form of 4.3 yards per carry like he saw in his rookie year. This is a prospect that I like. probably not as much as I like Rachaad White. A little bit of a different type of running back than Johnson, but someone that I think would fit very well into an Andy Reid offense. 9.87 RAS score. 6 foot tall, 214 pounds, 20 bench press reps, 38-inch vertical, 10 foot 5-inch broad jump, a 4.48 40-yard dash with a 1.52 10-yard split. The asking price here isn't going to be small, but it's not going to be like those first 3 running backs here. You're looking at a guy who had 481 rushing yards as a rookie with 1 touchdown, a 3.7 yard average, added 290 yards through the air and 2 touchdowns. Decent type of season for a rookie year in the NFL. In 2023, he went all the way up to 990 yards, but it took him 272 carries to get there. He added 6 touchdowns, but that gives him an average of 3.6 yards per carry. Those aren't pretty averages. He did, however, add 549 yards through the air, 3 touchdowns receiving. If you have been around the channel for the past, 3 weeks, I've made at least 2 videos about this. If Patrick Mahomes gets that type of productivity through the air from a running back, he's going to win the MVP. That is the key, both in 2018 and 2022, 2021, 2022. Patrick Mahomes won the NFL MVP and had a season like that from a running back. Last season, however, his production fell back down a little bit in some ways, but not in one key way. Had just 144 carries compared to 272 the season before, but he did have 613 yards and 3 touchdowns, meaning that he ran for a 4.3 yard average per carry. That is what you want to see. He did add 51 receptions for 393 yards and 6 touchdowns as well. These types of performances are what gets Patrick Mahomes an MVP caliber season and what gets the Kansas City Chiefs to the Super Bowl. So those are some of the running backs out there that maybe the Kansas City Chiefs would be looking at in a trade scenario. Maybe they would not. This is all still rumor right now. But anyway, guys, that's what I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out. I will be back later tonight with a video on the Sky Moore trade, full analysis of the Sky Moore trade, and YouTube wants you to click on one of these playlists or videos on your screen right now. Don't make them mad. Who knows if they will put your favorite armchair on the corner for trash, not for other purposes.